What's up, everybody? We're back. Corey Hughes Bloody History. We're going to continue on. The Dallas witnesses. We're going to blow through a couple hundred fucking pages of witness statements over the next couple weeks. We moved on to Billy Lovelady. I got a handwritten statement from Billy Lovelady. So what the Dallas police and Dallas sheriff did was a lot of people came in and gave handwritten statements, and then those statements were typewritten. They're all basically invalid statements because none of them are correct in as far as documentation, notary stamps, all that stuff. So basically the entirety of witness statements in Kennedy assassination are administratively worthless, honestly. Like, they'd never hold up in court. So let's continue. Billy Lovelady. This is handwritten, so I might struggle getting through it. All right. I was at the Texas School Book Depository, 411 Elm, on Friday, November 22nd, 1963. I worked on the 6th floor along with Danny Ark, Jack Doherty, Bill Shelley, Charles Givens. When the president come by, Bill Shelley and I were standing on the steps in front of the building where I work. I believe that. It's definitely Billy Lovelady in the Alton's photo. After he had passed and was about 50 yards past us, I heard 3 shots. There was a slight pause after the first shot, and then the next 2 was right close together. I could not tell where the shots come from, but it sounded like they were across the street from us. I can't read that word. Something that could have been caused by the echo. After it was something went back into the building and took some police officers up the stairs up to search the building. I did not see anyone around the building that was not supposed to be there. Okay, here's the deal. Every single one of these Dallas Police Department statements are manipulated. You'll find the same sentences in like almost all of these. The sentence, I did not see anyone around the building that was not supposed to be there. That's in like almost every witness statement you're going to see. So, and it says our lunch period was from 12 to 12:45. All of us had left the floor to see the president. So the problem with his statement is that he doesn't mention the fact that immediately after the shooting, him and William Shelley go back into the building. Bill Shelley flips the power onto the building. And then they both leave the building, and then they're captured in the couch film, walking briskly into Dealey Plaza, where they then meet up with Danny Ark. And he's photographed with them at that point. I'm talking about Danny Ark. Here's Danny Ark's statement. Danny Garcia Ark, white male. He's actually Hispanic. See, he put white male. He put W/M on his handwritten statement. But he's definitely a Cuban, right? He's Hispanic. But he put white because that's what they were always taught to do. All right. So, it goes, I'm employed at Texas School Book Depository, 411 Elm. I work all over the building. I was working on the 6th floor all morning. At lunchtime, at 12 noon, I went down on the street to see the parade and got a look at the president. I was standing on the corner of Elm and Houston, and I heard 3 shots ring out. I didn't know what happened until I heard a woman scream that the president had been shot. Well, it's kind of funny because he's got a radio in his hand in the photographs, in the Alton's photo. Okay, now we have another statement. Is this Doherty, maybe? This doesn't appear to have any heading on it. It doesn't have a signature on it. Maybe it's a continuation of his statement, but it doesn't indicate that. Let me continue reading. While working on the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository, the only people I saw all morning was Bill Shelley, Bonnie Ray Williams, Charles Douglas Givens, Billy Lovelady, and Jack Doherty. The only person I saw was a real old man. Yeah, this is Danny Ark's statement. A real old man, and he and an old brown suit and a Western hat. I saw this man leave the building and drive off in a black Buick. This man was not carrying anything in his hands when I saw him. This man was in the building after lunch. This man left in a car before the president was shot. I didn't see any other people in the building. But this old man, other than the people that I named that worked there. So Danny Ark is questioned later, and he clarifies. He said this old man came in and asked if there was a bathroom, and he had to take a piss. So this old man goes in and takes a piss. And And that's it. So here's another fucked up thing. This statement by Danny Ark is broken up into like multiple pages. They're different colors. You got a paragraph on one page. It says, in the car before the president was shot, I didn't see any other people in the building but this old man, other than the people that I named that work there. Okay, that's the only sentence on this page. And then you go down to the next page, and there's another paragraph. It says, there was another employee that I saw named Lee Oswald. He was on the first floor of the building when I saw him at 8 a.m. He is the same man I saw the police bring to the Homicide Bureau at 2 o'clock. And that's Danny Ark Garcia. And then there's another page, and this one's turned sideways. It says, I also saw him on the 5th floor as we were leaving for lunch. So he sees Oswald on the 5th floor around 12. But that's, and then it's all typed up. But this is all broken up into like 4 different pages. This is the weirdest fucking statement I've ever seen written. And then they have his entire statement here in duplicate. I fucking hate when they put shit in duplicate. All right. Next page, I don't know what this is. This seems to be just a note on a piece of paper. It says, Detective Beck and FBI agent Albert Sayers interviewed Miss Geneva Hine, white female, 60, employed at Texas School Book Depository, 6.5 years, stated that she works in the office on the 2nd floor. She goes to the 1st floor twice a day, about 1 or 1:30. She goes there to pick up copies, to go out to teachers, and etc. She identified a picture of Oswald that Agent Sayers had as the man she knows that works on the 1st floor as a book filler. She has seen him several times, but has never spoken to her. He's never spoken to her. She spoke to him on one day, but he did not even look at her. His face was always stern, and she has never seen him talking to anyone. She asked Mr. Shelley one day what the matter was with him, and he would not speak to anyone. She stated she did not see him at any time the day of the shooting. Was in the office alone the day of the shooting. Heard 3 shots and did not know what had happened until the police came in the office and told the president had been shot. And then it's just signed Beck. Geneva Hine's the one who talks about the power going off. I don't know why she's not mentioned in that statement. Here we go. This is a statement from William Shelley. It says, today, approximately 12:30, William Shelley is Oswald's boss, allegedly. Approximately 12:30 p.m., November 22nd, 1963, I was standing on the front steps at 411 Elm Street watching the president in the parade. The president's car was about halfway from Houston Street to the Triple Underpass when I heard what sounded like 3 shots. I couldn't tell where they come from. I ran across the street to the corner of the park and ran into a girl crying, and she said the president had been shot. This girl's name is Gloria Calvary, who was an employee of the same building. Oh, Gloria Calvary never mentions him in her statement. I went back to the building, went inside, called my wife, told her what happened. I was on the 1st floor then. I stayed at the elevator and was told not to let anyone out of the elevator. I left the elevator and went with the police up to those other floors. I left Jack Doherty in charge of the elevator. Shelley, we know, killed the power to the building, so he's a lying cunt. We have another statement from Billy Lovelady. All right, typed statement from James Jarman. He's an older black man, works at the book depository as a janitor, I think. All right, I work for Texas School Book Depository, 411 Elm, as a checker on the 1st floor for Mr. Roy Truly. On Friday, November 22nd, 63, I got to work at 8:05 a.m. First time I saw Lee Oswald on Friday, November 22nd, 1963, was about 8:15. He was filling orders on the 1st floor. A little after 9 a.m., Lee Oswald asked me what all the people were doing standing on the street. I told him that the president was supposed to come my way sometime this morning. He asked me, which way do you think he's coming? I told him that the president would probably come down Main Street and turn on Houston and then go down to Elm Street. He said, yes, I see. I only talked to them for about 3 or 4 minutes. The last time I saw Lee Oswald on Friday, November 22nd, was between 11:30 and 12 noon when he was taking the elevator upstairs to get some boxes. At about 11:45 a.m., all the employees who were working on the 6th floor came downstairs, and we were all out on the street about 12 o'clock. These employees were Bill Shelley, Charles Given, Bill Lovelady, and Bonnie Ray Williams, and a Spanish boy, Danny Ark. To my knowledge, Lee Oswald was not with us while we were watching the parade. All right. Looks like we have Patrolman Baker's statement here. It says Friday noon, 22nd, 1963. I was riding motorcycle escort for the President of the United States. At approximately 12:30 p.m., I was on Houston Street, and the President's car had made a left turn from Houston to Elm Street. Just as I approached Elm and Houston, I heard 3 shots. You see, this is contradictory, and this doesn't make any sense to me. I don't put him at Elm and Houston at 12:30. I don't put him there for at least another 30 seconds. He was at least 4, 5, 6 cars back with the motorcycle escort. So I don't really fucking buy this. And it's captured in the couch film, which means that William Shelley had enough time to run back in the building, kill the power. I mean, put the power back on, run back out, and start walking towards the pergola as Baker is parking his motorcycle. So I don't think he heard any shots. He definitely didn't hear any fucking shots. He was too far out of the way to hear shots. And he goes, he tried to figure out where they had come from. I decided that the shots had come from the building on the northeast or northwest corner of Elm and Houston. This building is used by the Board of Education for book storage. It's actually false. It's a private company. I jumped off my motor and saw inside the building as I entered the door. I saw several people stand around. I asked these people where the stairs were. A man stepped forward and stated he was the building manager and that he would show me where the stairs were. I followed the man to the rear of the building, and he said, let's take the elevator. The elevator was hung several floors up, so we used the stairs instead. As we this is the most important fucking statement in this whole fucking thing we're going to do. I'm telling you. Listen to this sentence. As we reached the 3rd or 4th floor, I saw a man walking away from the stairway. I called to the man. He turned around and come back toward me. The manager said that I know that man. He works here. I then turned the man loose and went up to the top floor. So once again, evidence that the lunchroom encounter never happened. The lunchroom encounter never happened. It's a myth. It was designed to cover for the fact that Baker made an arrest outside the depository of Emilio Santana. So let me continue on. Here it goes. Says the man I saw was a white man, approximately 30 years old, 5'9", 165. He had brown hair, and he was wearing a light brown jacket, or dark hair and a light brown jacket. All right. This next one is... Oh, I can't read the fucking name. It's all smudged. Oh, it's a typewritten version of that. But yeah, it's still the same thing. Still says 3rd or 4th floor. All right. Next one is from Lee Bowers, a Tower Man. The Tower Man's testimony is crucial in as far as figuring out a lot of things. Number one, the vehicle that pulled back inside the railroad yard before the assassination that had a Georgia license plate on it. Georgia license plate, who in the cast of characters is in Georgia, in Atlanta particularly. David Leon Miller. The connection to David Leon Miller is Mildred Click and Bernice Click to David Yaris, right? So... that I didn't put in my book because I still need to work out some details, but I know what happened. I understand how that happened. Dave Yaris and Lenny Patrick end up in Dallas, and then both disappear off the radar from the FBI. They both show up in Chicago a couple days after the assassination, right? They were there, clearly. They were staying at a place run by Bertha Cheek next to the Carousel Club under the names David Leon Miller and Isidore Max Miller. But I have to really... I need to flesh that out. I mean, I fleshed it out 4 fucking years ago, maybe 5 years ago. It was one of the first things I did. But it's been a long time since I looked at it. I just remember the results that I came up with. That's the thing that sucks sometimes. You do some research, you come to a conclusion, and then you don't go over that material for a couple of years, and so you remember your conclusion, and you tell people your conclusion, and like, well, how'd you come with that? And you're like, fuck, I got to go double check. But that's what I got to do. But yeah, make no mistake about it. He links to that, plus he links to, we're talking about Lee Bowers now. Lee Bowers will connect the dots on the 3 tramps. So it says, I work at the North Tower Union Terminal Company, RI 8-4698, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday to Friday. The tower where I work is west about and a little north of the Texas Book Depository building. I was on duty today about 11:55 a.m. and I saw a dirty 59 Oldsmobile station wagon come down the street towards my building. The street dead ends in the railroad yard. This car had out-of-state license plates and with white background and black numbers. No letters. Let me pause right here. Let's talk about Oldsmobile station wagons. Who drove a white Oldsmobile station wagon from Los Angeles to Dallas? Lauren Hall did, okay? It was then, Lee Harvey Oswald was then seen pushing a broke-down white Oldsmobile station wagon into a junk dealer. So, but then we have this 1959 Oldsmobile station wagon with out-of-state plates. I don't know this for a fact. Ryan Dawson told me that the person driving this 59 Oldsmobile was George Senator. I haven't been able to connect the dots on that yet, but that's what Ryan has told me. Not that Ryan's right about a lot of shit. Ryan still thinks that Oswald worked at the Book Depository. I argued with this guy for like an hour last night. He's just not willing to see the reason. So, yes, the 59 Oldsmobile, according to Ryan, was driven by George Senator. It's later seen at a gas station. Someone calls the cops because they see a rifle in the back seat. All right, let me continue. This street dead ends at the railroad yard. This car had out-of-state license plates with white background and black numbers. No letters. It also had a Goldwater for 64 sticker in the rear window. This car just drove around slowly and left the area. It was occupied by a middle-aged white man, partly gray hair. About 12:15 p.m., another car came in the area with a white man about 25 to 35 years old driving. This car was a 1957 Ford black two-door with Texas license. This man appeared to have a mic or telephone in the car. Just a few minutes after this car left at 12:20 p.m., another car pulled in. This was a 61 Chevy Impala four-door. I'm not sure that this car was a four-door, white color, dirty up to the windows. This is Emilio Santana's car. This car also had a Goldwater. So both cars had Goldwater 64 on it. That's new. The car was driven by a white male, 25 to 35, with long blonde hair. That's weird. Long blonde hair? Not Emilio Santana. He stayed in the area longer than others. But see, that's the same car that was driven on the trip where they booted Rose Shermy. The Impala was. So, same car was seen in that area. This car also had the same license plate as the 59 Oldsmobile. He left this area about 12:25 p.m. About 8 or 10 minutes after he left, I heard at least 3 shots very close together. Just after the shots, the area became crowded with people coming from Elm and the slope just north of Elm. See, he didn't mention the Georgia plates here, but one of them has Georgia plates. He says it in another statement. I have another handwritten statement from him, but I don't know if it's the same one or not. Yeah, it is. All right, let's skip that. Statement of Sam Holland. I am a signal supervisor for the Union Terminal, and I was inspecting signal and switches and stopped to watch the parade. I was standing on top of the triple underpass, and the president's car was coming down Elm Street, and when they got just about the arcade, I heard what I thought for the moment was a firecracker, and he slumped over, and I looked over toward the arcade and trees and saw a puff of smoke come from the trees. And I heard 3 more shots after the first shot, but that was the only puff of smoke I saw. I immediately ran around to where I could see behind the arcade and did not see anyone running from there. But the puff of smoke I definitely saw came from behind the arcade through the trees. After the first shot, the president slumped over, and Mrs. Kennedy jumped up and tried to get over in the back seat to him, and then the second shot rang out. After the first shot, the Secret Service man raised up in the seat with a machine gun and dropped back down in the seat, and they immediately sped off. Everything is spinning in my head, and if I remember anything else later, I'll come back and tell Bill. So Holland's an interesting one because we know there was activity on the overpass. He was on the overpass. There was a rifle seen on the fucking overpass. Robert Bernard Baker's on the overpass. I am under the belief that Robert Bernard Baker was one of the shooters who didn't shoot because he didn't have to. But he was on the overpass, a matter of feet from SM Holland. So what's up with Holland's statement? Is it edited? Is it not accurate? Is he not accurate? He knows Bill Decker. Is he in on something? I don't know. See, this is the problem with Kennedy. Like a lot of the stuff you just don't know. You'll never know. There's this weird, you don't know about the imposing relationships behind the scenes or none of that stuff, right? All right. Howard Leslie Brennan. This guy's statements were always interesting. They tried to use him to say that he saw Oswald up in the book depository. But of course we didn't. He didn't see shit, you know. And then people tried to do some research into the company he worked for and tried to connect him to stuff. I just haven't gone that far with him, and honestly, I don't see the point at this point. Maybe at some time I will, but since his involvement is really only as a witness in putting Oswald there, and I definitely know that that's not true, I don't really see much of a point in digging into him too much. I'm presently employed by the Wallace and Beard Construction Company as a steam fitter, and have been so employed for about the past 7 weeks. I am working in the Katy Railroad yards at the west end of Pacific Street near railroad tracks. We'd knocked off for lunch, and I had dinner at the cafeteria at Record and Main Street, and had come back to see the President of the United States. I was sitting on a ledger wall near the intersection of Houston Street and Elm Street near the red light pole. I was facing in a northerly direction, looking not only at Elm Street, but I could see the large red brick building across the street from where I was sitting. I take this building across the street from across the street to be about 7 stories anyway, in the east end of the building, and second row of windows from the top. I saw a man in this window. I had seen him before the president's car arrived. He was just sitting up there looking down, apparently waiting for the same thing I was to see, the president. I did not notice anything unusual about this man. He was a white man in his early 30s, slender, nice looking, slender, and would weigh about 165 to 175. He's talking about Lauren Hall. He had on a light-colored clothing, but definitely not a suit, right? So what was Lauren Hall wearing? He had the suit jacket, and under he had a white button-down shirt, right? So from what I can gather, he also had a hat and he had glasses, but he had taken those off while he was upstairs. Because one of the witnesses, and this is another one, who just didn't see the jacket or suit or any of that stuff. He had taken it off, set it down. That's why, he shoots, puts that stuff back on, then... Remember, he had 3 minutes. Lauren Hall stayed in the building for 3 minutes, right? He didn't leave till 12:33. So he had plenty of time to put his shit back on and make his way down the stairs, or however he got downstairs. I don't know if he made his way down the stairs or not. There would be people on the stairs at this point, so probably not. But I don't know. He made it down to the first floor, where he obviously hung out for a minute or so before leaving out the back door. He had on light-colored clothing, but definitely not a suit. I proceeded to watch the president's car. As if it turned left at the corner where I was, and about 50 yards from the intersection of Elm and Houston. And to a point, I would say the president's back was in line with the last window. I have previously described, I heard what I thought was backfire. It run in my mind that it might be someone throwing firecrackers out of the window of the red brick building. And I looked up at the building. Then I saw this man I have described in the window. He was taking aim with a high-powered rifle. I could see all the barrel out of the gun. I do not know if it had a scope on it or not. I was looking at the man in this window at the time of the last explosion. Then this man let the gun down to his side, stepped out of sight. He did not seem to be in a hurry. I could see this man from about his belt up. There was nothing unusual about him in his appearance. I believe I could identify this man if I ever saw him again. So he doesn't he doesn't really describe Oswald. Oswald's 24 and he weighs 140 to 150 pounds. And let me see, he saw this one, and so this information is used to say that he saw the man in the sniper's nest, but he didn't. That's not what he said there. That's not what he said here at all. I'm looking for this line here. It run in my mind that it might be someone throwing firecrackers out of the window. No, before that, he had on light-colored clothing. I proceeded to watch the president's car as it turned left at the corner where I was, and about 50 yards from the intersection of Elm and Houston, and to a point where I would say the president's back was in line with the last window I have previously described. The last window I have previously described. I don't understand what he's saying there, because the person he's describing is probably Lauren Hall, and Lauren Hall was firing out of the last window, like on the west side of the building, right? So I think there might just be some misinterpretation of what Brendan wrote here, and then obviously all the witnesses were coached before they gave video statements, except for maybe the Newmans. The Newmans were pretty fresh on it. All right. So we're back to this list of witnesses interviewed by Trantham. Trantham is a liar. Remember, we have to remember that. But he talked to Hugh Betzner, John Chisholm, Bob Jackson, Lee Bowers. O.S. McVey, McVey. O.S. McVey. Jim, can you pull whatever you can find on O.S. McVey, McVey? It says they didn't interview him, but you never know what they're going to find. All right, statement of O.V. Campbell. So O.V. Campbell's the vice president of the book depository, and he was on the street at the time of the assassination. He was former OSS, as was William Shelley. And see, here's a weird thing. Like, in all of the years of research surrounding the book depository, everyone knows about the interviews with Roy Truly. Everyone's up on the interviews with O.V. Campbell. Everyone's up on the interviews with William Shelley. No one ever discusses Jack Kaysen at all, who was the top dog in the book depository, the CEO. Him and O.V. Campbell were partners in it. Roy Truly might have had a financial interest in it eventually, I think. But at least in the beginning, it was those two guys. And Jack Kaysen is the head of the American Legion group in Dallas at this time. I don't really know much about them. They're definitely a right-wing organization. There were some local FBI agents in that organization that were associated with Jack Kaysen. But I will bet my fucking life that Jack Kaysen let the shooters into the building. Jack Kaysen and O.V. Campbell knew everything. Maybe O.V. Campbell not so much. Jack Kaysen for sure. Jack Kaysen puts himself out the door at 12:10 p.m. Arnold Rowland puts these shooters that we see up there between 12:10 and 12:15 is the first time he sees them up there. So to me, it makes sense that Jack Kaysen let these guys in the back door. They then take the elevator or the stairs. They could have taken the stairs to be more concealed. Either way, but I'm pretty convinced that it was Jack Kaysen, and O.V. Campbell's his partner. He says, I talked with Mr. Campbell on this date, February 17th, 1964 at 6 p.m. The following is a statement he gave me. My name is O.V. Campbell. I am the vice president of the Texas School Book Depository, 411 Elm. On November 22nd, 1963, I arrived at work between 8:30 and 9 a.m. My office is on the second floor, room 200. I did my usual work until noon. I had forgotten about the parade. I started to lunch with Mr. Truly. When we got downstairs, Mr. Truly asked if I wanted to wait and see the parade. We waited up on the front steps until the parade turned off Main Street to Houston Street, and then we walked across Elm and stood on the curb near the parade as it turned from Houston down under the underpass. I heard the shots. Sounded like they came from the knoll near the railroad tracks. I thought it was firecrackers. A uniform officer came up at the time, and sometime a construction worker with a helmet, that's Brennan, who we just heard from, came across the street and said that he had seen a rifle barrel in the sixth floor window. I walked back in the building. Mr. Truly and the officer had already gone in and up the stairs. See, here's the thing. There's no way this timeline is correct. He must have had a lot more time that he waited. A uniform officer came up, and at the same time, a construction worker with a helmet came across the street, said he'd seen a rifle barrel. So yeah, this has to have been after 12:37, right? All those other people had to have gone already in there. Mr. Truly and the officer had already gone in and up the stairs. I waited until they came back down to see if they found anything. The employees were standing around. When Mr. Truly came back down, he said one of the employees was missing, a man named Oswald. But see, that doesn't make any sense because oh my God, this doesn't make sense at all. All right. So what do we have? We have Baker and Truly. They encounter Oswald allegedly on the stairs in either the third or the fourth floor, but we know that it's William Seymour as he's making his descent, and it's about 12:38. They don't cut him loose till about 12:39 p.m. But Truly comes down the stairs, and that person who they allegedly stopped is Oswald. But here we have when Mr. Truly came down the stairs, he said one of the employees was missing, a man named Oswald. Oh my God. Fucking my God. I can't believe that I've overlooked this for all these years. All right, this is a major point of contention here, okay? This is a major contradiction here. When Mr. Truly came down the stairs, he said one of the employees was missing, a man named Oswald. But that's not possible because he's allegedly the one who saw Oswald. He would have seen Oswald on the second floor, right? Even if the second floor lunch story was true. that this wouldn't have been true. Because he would have seen him after the assassination. He wasn't missing. He saw him in the fucking lunchroom, right? But no. That's not what this is. Oh, this is killer. This is really good because this is a major, major point. I'm going to move on, but I'm going to note to come back to this at some point. He says, I did not know Oswald. Okay, so Roy Truly, who's the guy who's the vice president of this company, he's there allegedly every fucking day, and he didn't know Oswald? He goes, I told Mr. Truly to tell the officers about him and what he looked like. I went back to my office, and the FBI agent came in and introduced himself. I don't remember his name. He asked that I have all the employees vacate the building. This I did, telling them to take the rest of the day off. I remained in the office until about 2:30 or 3 p.m. Then I left. The officers were all still searching the building when I left. This concludes Mr. Campbell's statement to me, and that's from James Lavelle. James Lavelle being the man in the tan suit who was walking Jack Ruby when Jack Ruby gets shot. All right, the next statement from John Chisholm. And we already covered some of the sheriff's office statements, so I'm going to skip over those. All right, I have a statement here from Mr. Truly, who we know is a liar. Plus, there's some obfuscation around the addresses because it seems like the Dallas police knew in about 2 seconds, from the time the shooting happened, that Oswald was missing, and they knew about they knew about the Elspeth address, which they shouldn't have known about. Nobody should have known about that. They knew about the address at 1026 North Beckley, and they knew about the address at the Paynes. But here's the thing. The address that was given was the Paynes, and they went to the Paynes, and then allegedly Ruth Payne gave the address of 1026 North Beckley. But I believe there's some indication that 1026 North Beckley was also retrieved by somebody at the book depository. So I'll have to look into that for clarification. All right, so this statement of Mr. Truly says, who, after being by me duly sworn an oath deposes, I am superintendent of the Texas School Book Depository, 411 Elm Street in Dallas. I was working in that capacity yesterday, Friday, November 22nd, 1963. I have 19 employees in the plant. Lee Harvey Oswald was one of these employees. We considered him a temporary employee. We work a lot of extra employees during the summer and fall. Mr. O.V. Campbell, one of the owners, and I started to lunch a few minutes after 12 o'clock. We saw that a parade was nearly down to us, so we stopped and watched the president go by. After the president passed, we heard what sounded like an explosion. I heard 3 such explosions. Then I realized they must have been shots. I saw an officer break through the crowd and go into our building. I realized he did not know anything about the building, so I ran in with him. The officer and I went through the shipping department to the freight elevator. We then started up the stairway. We hit the second floor landing. The officer stuck his head into the lunchroom area where there are Coke and candy machines. Lee Oswald was in there. Okay, this is completely false. Remember, this is the next day. So by the next day, they had time to coach the story. Remember, because we have Baker's statement that we already read that this incident occurred on the 3rd or 4th floor, right? And that the guy was walking away from him back into the building, right? So he had seen him he had seen the cop on the stairs and just tried to avoid him by walking back into the building. But then he stops him and calls him over. And this is after 12:38 p.m. So Mr. Truly's lying here. They had to have come up with that story really to cover for the fact that they made that arrest of Emilio Santana. So, it says the officer and I went through the shipping department to the freight elevator. We then started up the stairway. We hit the second floor landing. The officer stuck his head into the lunchroom where there are Coke and candy machines. Lee Oswald was in there. The officer had his gun on Oswald and asked if he was an employee. I answered yes. We then went up to the stairs to the 5th floor where we found the elevator open. We took the elevator to the 7th floor and out onto the roof. We searched the roof, and a small room also checked the landings. You see, here we have blatant contradiction between this and the story of Baker. Baker said it happened on the 3rd or 4th floor. Not only did he put that in his written statement, it was also put into the typewritten statement, and then it was mentioned by Chief Curry in the Chief Curry statement in his report. So, yeah, this did not happen. The Coke machine story is a myth. He says Lee Oswald was in there. The officer had his gun on him and asked if he was an employee. It's ridiculous. He goes, we searched the roof in the small room, also checked the landings. We could look out over the tracks in the street below. We did not find anything. We started down on the elevator. The officer took a hurried look on a couple of floors on the way down. We then met some other officers on the 4th floor searching the building. I overheard someone say that the shot came from the window of our building. By the time that there was several people in the building, some 15 minutes later, I was checking our employees and I did not find Lee. I asked Mr. Shelley if he had seen Lee. He said no. I then contacted Chief Lumpkin and told him Lee was missing. Then both of us went up to the 6th floor where... Hang on a second. How can he say that Lee was missing if he ran into him on the 2nd floor? He runs into Lee on the 2nd floor. When he comes down, he tells everyone else to leave and go home. But then he's like, Lee was missing. See, Roy Truly is completely in on this. Why would he ask Mr. Shelley if he had seen Lee? He just saw Lee. He just saw fucking Lee. Why would he ask him if he saw Lee? It doesn't make any sense at all. Then both of us went up to the 6th floor where Captain Fritz and I told Captain Fritz about Lee being missing and where he lived. See, but he left, Charles Givens left, 2 of the secretaries left, like a whole bunch of people left. Like, what are you fucking talking about? Lee's missing. We don't run a thorough check on our temporary employees. They fill out an application form. In Lee Oswald's case, a lady from Irving called and said a neighbor had a brother working for me and had said we could use some more help. And this woman said she knew a nice young boy. And that's that. Statement cuts off. All right. Damn, they got this statement of O.V. Campbell in here like 3 fucking times. All right. Now we have a supplemental report from Gus Rose, Officer Stovall. This is information about they were involved with Lee after he's arrested and brought back to the station. So let's see what they have to say here. We received information from Mrs. Bill Randall in Irving, Billy May, what's her name? Linnie Mae Randall's husband, that her brother. Oh, that's Linnie. That's right. In the 60s, they did that. You know, Mrs. Bill Randall. That's like they always gave the guy's name. But that's Linnie Mae Randall. Okay, so she says that her brother, Buell Frazier, white male, 19, same address, took Lee Oswald to work that morning of the murder, and that she saw Oswald and had a long package in the back seat of her brother's 1951 black Chevrolet 4-door, 1963 Texas license, VK3926. See her affidavit, it says. She said her brother wasn't home, but visiting their stepfather, Dave Williams, at Parkland Hospital to check with Parkland Hospital, but they didn't have Dave Williams there. He finally located Dave Williams at the Irving Professional Center, room 30. Detective Rose contacted Detective John McCabe of the Irving PD, asked him to check for Frazier. Detective McCabe called us back stating that he had the boy at the Irving PD. He went there immediately and got Frazier, and accompanied by McCabe, went to the Irving Professional Center and searched Frazier's black 1954 Chevrolet Texas license VK3926. We found nothing of importance. We then went to 2439 West 5th Street with Frazier, and he showed us where he kept his .303 caliber rifle and a box of ammunition. See property room invoice. Frazier's sister, Mrs. Randall, came to the location, and we brought Frazier and Mrs. Randall to the homicide office. Affidavit was taken from Mrs. Randall. Frazier was interrogated and run on the polygraph with negative results. Affidavit was then taken from Frazier. Frazier and his sister were then returned to Irving on 11/22. So I don't buy for a fucking split second that was Frazier's .303. I just don't. Sorry. They planted a .303 bullet at Parkland, which was then swapped by the FBI for the magic bullet. So they were setting somebody up with a .303. You know? So I don't see how this is a coincidence in the least bit. What's the next one here? This looks like another supplemental report from one of the officers. I can't see who it is, and this writing is terrible. So we're going to call it here for today, and I'll pick this up tomorrow. I'm going to scan over this and see if I can't interpret some of it before we move forward. But that's going to do it for me today, guys. Tune in later for a new episode of Bloody History, World War II, where we're talking about the health care of the inmates at Auschwitz. Thanks, guys.